you're like me. You grew up in a family where pursuing the perfection of Jesus and being flawless and not sinning was your endeavor that you were to pursue. Holiness and perfection and godliness. And you would take that verse, Matthew, of course, 5:48, and take it literally. You know the one. Therefore, you shall be perfect as I am perfect. And so because there was no AI or, Google back then in the 90s, really, where you couldn't really triple check what you're being taught, and translations were pretty shitty, NIV or, King James, or really, really shitty translations, and even shittier preachers like Benny Hinn and Kenneth Copeland and others. Oh, it's getting hot in here. You're forced to just consume the shit you're being taught. And fortunately, I was brought up in a home where you could question it, you could debate, you can say, you know what, this doesn't sound right. And you can have those discussions. And sometimes it would end well. You would convince each other, like, let's dive deeper. Let's go in. And other times it would be like, you're wrong. No, I'm still convinced that this is the way it is. Fast forward to today. There's still the residual. Some of these people I know are still in these cult-like mindsets, whereas others have evolved and realized that, some of us were right. And some of these verses just didn't seem right, that perhaps these monks didn't translate it into English accurately. And that perhaps it wasn't actually meaning perfect as in perfect, that it was actually meaning something else. So I did an article over on my blog. That's a thing. So I went in and dove deep and took this verse apart. So I want to encourage you to go have a look-see, and I explain it to you and tear it down and explain that it's not actually literally saying be perfect. It's actually saying something entirely different. So I'm going to break it down real quick, but I encourage you to go read the blog. So, does God really expect perfection? No. I hate to break it to you, but some of us have been misquoting Jesus for some years here. Telios, the Greek word, it doesn't mean flawless. It's actually the meaning. It means complete, mature, whole. Okay? The actual word that was used. Translation, perfect was the wrong word. Jesus is wrapping up a teaching on loving your enemies. So bigger context here. He's calling us to love. This chapter, you have to step back, right? I love how people just love to just zone in on a verse and forget to step back and see something as a whole, because it usually paints something they try not to get you to focus on. Okay, so he is calling people to love humanity, right? He's calling people to love one another. He's not calling, in this statement, he's not talking about moral perfection, okay? Let's go to 1 Peter 1, Leviticus 11:44. Be holy, for I am holy. The Greek word is hagios, or whatever. That is actually the meaning of, that means set apart, distinct, sacred. This is not about identity, not legalistic perfection. How about 1 John 3:3? Purifies himself as he is pure. The word purifies is in present tense. It's an ongoing process, not a final destination. So what scholars have been saying about these verses, like N.T. Wright, Jesus is describing wholeness and love in this part, in these sections, not rule keeping. Dallas Willard, not perfectionism here. It's all inner transformation. Scholars agree that God is after your heart, not flawless performance. Scholars all agree. In actual translations here, perfection is not what is actually being discussed here. The actual translation has nothing to do with perfection. Walking a pure life has nothing to do with purification or perfection. It just doesn't. What God is actually asking in these verses is to be mature in love, be set apart, be different from the world, be on a journey of growth, not locked in shame. It's about grace fueled transformation, not behavior management. So if you've been judging sinners while trying to earn spiritual gold stars, sorry to break it to you, you've been failing this whole time. Yeah, sorry. God is not waiting for you to be perfect. He's inviting you to be real, transformed, and whole. And here we go, ready for it? To love one another. That's the whole point of his existence, was to love one another. There's freedom in knowing that you're not expected to perform, just to walk in him, as he did, loving your neighbor, loving others. So be as him. It's funny how the ones that are like striving to be like him in that regard always fail miserably on the love part. The ones that were always the ones striving to be perfect and not sin were always the most cruel to me and others when it came to actually loving me. So ironic. I encourage you to go read the article. Dives much deeper than what I do justice right now in this reel. Read your Bible. Actually, read the right Bible. I will always not take a church serious if they pull out a King James or an NIV. I will just be like, what the fuck? Where'd you get your... If you're going to read and believe in something, study the most accurate translation you can possibly find. Because there are people that have been reading and believing and diving deep in the most inaccurately translated book that's out there, and taking these verses completely out of context and destroying lives in the meantime. It's pretty sad.